What's up, everybody? Back again with another Next.js tutorial. Today we're going to be covering parallel routes, which is an advanced routing concept in NextJS15. What are parallel routes in Next.js? So parallel routes allow you to simultaneously or conditionally render one or more pages within the same layout. They're used for highly dynamic sections of an app, such as complex dashboards or feeds on social sites. For example, considering the dashboard use case, you can use parallel routes to simultaneously render the team and analytics pages within the same layout, like you can see here in the picture. Parallel routes in Next.js are created using named slots. Slots are defined with the @ symbol in front of the folder name. So just like with route groups, how we use parentheses, and with dynamic routes, we use the brackets. In this case, we're going to be using the @ symbol to define our slots or parallel routes. So slots are passed as props to the shared parent layout. So based off of this example, you can see here the layout, the parent layout would be this layout file right here. And we would pass in the two parallel routes or slots as props to this layout component. So we're going to talk about this in the code with a quick example. Let's hop into our code base and let's go ahead and define us some parallel routes. So to start, we're going to consider the use case of a dashboard. So we're going to have three different parallel routes that we are going to want to show. The first one is going to be analytics. The second one, we're going to have like a notifications one. And then the third one, we can do like, well, we'll follow the documentation example and have team. So it's going to be analytics, team, and notifications. So let's go ahead and create those parallel routes. So to begin, to create a new slot, we have to use the @ symbol for our folder name. And in this case, it'll be, let's start with analytics. Let's go in alphabetical order. Next up, we're going to do notifications. And lastly, we'll do team. So one of the things to know about these, just like how with route groups we talked about in our previous video, don't affect the URL structure. These do not affect the URL structure as well. So any page we define in here will not be, you won't have to access it in the URL by typing in localhost 3000/a analytics. It'll just be localhost 3000. If we just define like a nested route in here, it'll be views, for example. That's how you would be able to navigate to it. So parallel routes, slots, they do not affect the URL structure. So let's go ahead and continue on. Let's make a new file called page.tsx. And then we can just copy this one from our main page. And then we're going to say analytics page. And then we just copy this file over as well. Add that to notifications and team. And then we just change this up to match so we have some type of context. All right, so now that we have our routes defined, we need to go back. So let's go back to the documentation before we even try to load the app up. I don't know why I just did that. That was just an unconscious habit. Let's go ahead and see how they define these or pass these slots as props in the layout component. So you can see here we have team and analytics. So let's just copy this portion right here. We don't need to really modify our main layout component too much. I'm just going to do team, analytics, notifications. Beautiful. And then we're just going to define the types here. And then we'll just type in notifications. And then last but not least, we actually have to render the pages or the slots. And then we do notifications. Easy. Right? All right, so now we already have our app running. If you don't have it running, you type in your terminal npm run dev, or if you have your run configuration set up for your IDE, just press the play button and the app should load up for you. And you can see here, we have all of our pages now loading. Hello page, team page. So that hello page is our root page in the app. And then we have our parallel routes coming in, team page, analytics page, and notifications page. Not pretty, mind you, but this is how it is. And now we successfully created our first parallel routes in Next.js. Right now, you're probably asking, Cam, why the heck would I even try to overcomplicate things and use this when I can simply use the traditional component route to handle what I need to, such as like rendering different parts, different things like this on the same layout? Well, you're right, because I was asking the same thing myself. I was like, really, where is this really going to come in handy for? But I guess it's more of a right tool for the right job type of thing. So in this case, it does allow you to split your code out into different slots and keep your code more organized. Again, you can do this using a traditional component approach, but this also gives you some of the benefits that the Next.js app router provides. Two biggest things are independent route handling and sub navigation. Independent route handling. So that is, you have each slot for your layout, and that means you can control the state of each slot separately. So loading, error states. Again, this really comes into play like on complex dashboards and stuff, social sites like the Next.js documents referenced. So yeah, if you have varying page load speeds or data fetching speeds for each slot on your page, definitely makes the UI a little bit more friendly, where you can see the state, like if it's loading, if it's loaded, or if there's an error or something like that. So I can see where that will come in handy. The second thing is sub navigation and routes. So another significant advantage is their capability to offer a seamless sub navigation experience within each parallel route slot on your page. So this basically gives your application like a mini application feel. So each slot will have like its own navigation, giving it like that mini app feel. So again, those are just some of the benefits you get from using parallel routes. Again, it all comes down to what you prefer, the right tool for the right job. Everything comes with pros, everything comes with cons, but if you're starting out on a new project, why not make use of this if you have the opportunity to? Going back to the documentation. So let's talk about active state and navigation. By default, Next.js keeps track of the active state or subpage for each slot or parallel route. However, the content rendered within a slot will depend on the type of navigation. So soft navigation, let's go ahead and click on this link just so we can quickly go over that. Soft navigation is Next.js's app router's ability to enable between pages. So it ensures only the route segments that have changed are re-rendered. So that's known as partial rendering. This enables the client React state to be preserved during navigation. So a better way to think about this, so like they said here, browsers perform a hard navigation when navigating between pages. So a hard navigation is basically a page refresh. So something like this. You click the refresh button. That's a hard navigation. Next.js allows you to do a soft navigation when you're using the app router. So clicking here, like, see, that wasn't a hard navigation. That was just a soft navigation by clicking that link. So it keeps the React state preserved. So that's something that's really important when we're developing in React. So that's something else that we'll talk about later down the line, but that's what soft navigation is. So let's go ahead and go back to those docs. All right. So soft navigation, let's go ahead and just reread this one more time. During client-side navigation, Next.js will perform a partial render, rendering only what needs to be re-rendered, with changing the sub page within the slot, while maintaining the other slot's active sub pages, even if they don't match the current URL. Hard navigation, we talked about. After a full page load, browser refresh, Next.js cannot determine the active state for the slots or parallel routes that don't match the current URL. Instead, it will render a default.jsx or TSX file in our case for the unmatched slots, or a 404 error if the default.tsx file does not exist. Good to know. The 404 for unmatched routes helps ensure that you don't accidentally render a parallel route on the page that it was not intended for. So let's talk about the default.tsx. You can define a default.tsx file to render as a fallback for unmatched slots during the initial load or full page load. So let's talk about it with an example. So right here, they're saying considering the following folder structure. So the team parallel route slot has a settings page, but analytics does not. When navigating to the settings page, the team slot will render the settings page while maintaining the currently active page for the analytics slot. On refresh, Next.js will render a default.tsx for analytics. If default.tsx does not exist, a 404 error will be thrown. Additionally, since children is an implicit slot, you also need to make a default file for the fallback of this when Next.js cannot recover the active state of the parent page. So basically, we need to make 3 default.tsx files in our case. So let's go ahead, well, 4 actually, for our case, our complex dashboard. So let's go ahead and do that in a quick coding example. We're in our code base. We have in our case, we have 3 slots: analytics, notifications, and team for our complex dashboard. So in our analytics, for example, since this is the first one that's in the list, let's go ahead and create a route inside of here. And then we'll just do settings. And then inside of here, let's copy that page component and let's paste it in there. And remember, this will affect the URL structure because it's not a route group and it is not a slot for a parallel route. So let's see, analytics settings page. And now let's see what happens. Is our app still loading correctly? Indeed it is, right? All right, so let's just keep this open for the time being. Let's close that. And then if we go to settings, so now you notice whenever we try to access our new settings route slot, we get a 404 error. Why is that? It's because there is no default file that Next.js can use to render as a fallback on this initial page load. So to fix this, we should just have to add in a default.tsx file on our 3 slots along with our root layout. So let's go ahead and start there. We'll start by adding our default.tsx file on the same level as our page or our layout. Let's do that. And then we do export default function, ugly name, but default. And then we just return. And then that's 1. Really, we just copy this file. And then we do it here. We do it here. And we add it to our last slot, team. Where's my paste? All right, so now that we do that, you can see that we're able to finally access our nested route that's in our parallel route slot. And then if we try to go back to the home page, you can see everything loads successfully, so no more 404 page. So remember, if you don't define the default.tsx and you have route slots, you're going to get a 404 error just because Next doesn't know what to do on load since those routes don't match. So remember, we only defined a settings route inside of our analytics slot. We don't have that settings directory anywhere else. And Next.js is looking for these other slots to have that same setup. So it's going to be like, dude, what the heck? And then it's going to poop itself. So make sure you have a default.tsx file defined, or else you will be greeted with a nice 404 page. Conditional routes. You can use parallel routes to conditionally render routes based on certain conditions, such as user role. For example, to render a different dashboard page for the admin or user roles, you can literally just have a function, say, is this user logged in or is this user an admin? And then based on whatever you find, you can display something accordingly. So let's go ahead and do this with you already know what I'm about to say, coding example. For our conditional routing example using parallel routes, we're going to continue on with our theme of the complex dashboard, and we're just going to add in a new slot. So we're going to kind of take what they gave us in the documentation. So we're going to make a slot for login. So remember, making a new slot, use the @ symbol for your directory. And then inside of here, let's just go ahead and grab page like this. And we're just going to do login page. And heck, we can even add, I'm trying to see, just so we can make things a little bit fancier than normal than it needs to be. And then we just add a quick button. Not even going to do any functionality here. We're just going to have something like that. All right. So now that we have that defined, we also need to, remember, add a default.tsx so we don't get any 404s. So let's go ahead. Really, we don't even need to name it. We'll just copy what we already have, just like this. Okay, so we shouldn't see any 404 errors. And now if we go back to our root layout, you can see here, we already have these things defined, right? So let's go ahead and add in login, and then we do login right here. Get the type defined. And just for giggles, before we even try to do any fun stuff, let's just put this right here and make sure we load up correctly. Let's see, did we miss anything? We have login. Then we go here. Login has a page, login page. And then let us rebuild the app just for a sanity check to make sure I didn't break anything. And there we go. So now you can see here our login slot has been displayed successfully. So now let's do conditional routing. So to do that, we're just going to make a quick little function. And then we just add some logic in here. A little ternary statement. We'll go over all this fun render logic stuff when we start doing some real deal coding. So if the user is logged in, we want to display our slots like normal, but if not, we want to display login. So in this case, is logged in is always going to return false, so we should only just be shown the login component. Let's check that out. There we go. So now you can see only login is showed, and then let's just say I'm a user and I finally logged in, I enter my password, email, do that, we see that. So we did a conditional routing example, complex dashboard, y'all know what's going on. So there you have it, parallel routes in a nutshell. Again, just to summarize everything that we covered in this video. So Next.js parallel routes, they offer a powerful way to build dynamic and complex user interfaces. It simplifies code management, and it also enhances the user experience if done right. Parallel routes allow simultaneous rendering of different pages within the same layout. Parallel routes are defined using slots. When you define your slot, you make sure your directory has the @ symbol. The @ symbol does not affect the URL structure. So it's just like route groups where the symbol or the folder does not get picked up in the URL. Slots organize your content into a more modular fashion, making your code more manageable. And the use of default.tsx for unmatched routes prevents the 404 error. So make sure you have those defined with each of your parallel routes or slots, parallel routes. We'll call it parallel routes now. But hey, I appreciate y'all for coming through, showing love. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. 2025, I'm going to be dropping a lot more content, as much as I possibly can in between work and gaming. So yeah, I appreciate y'all as always. Until next time, y'all. Peace out.